Welcome to Discover Startups, a show that shines a light on early stage founders and the ideas behind the businesses they're building. I'm Georgie Brown, and on today's show, we're talking to Todd Bruce, founder of Reclaim, a drinks brand that's set out to tackle one of the most familiar problems out there, the dreaded hangover. There's a good chance that if you drink alcohol, you've been in the following situation: a couple of glasses too many on a weeknight, or a big weekend that leaves you needing to rally fast the next morning. Usually, you're left throwing together a messy mix of coffee, fizzy drinks, juice, or supplements that barely take the edge off and only just get you through the day. Well, after a big weekend at a festival, Todd decided he wanted to create something better. That spark led to Reclaim, a functional recovery drink designed to actually work when you wake up feeling less than 100%. Packed with natural ingredients and built to help you bounce back, it's a product for real life, for the mornings when you don't have the time to waste and need ingredients that actually help you instead of masking the pain. Todd, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. I guess for the people that don't know you yet, could you tell us a bit more about who you are and sort of what Reclaim is in your own words?
Yeah, absolutely. So I used to work on super-yachts. I worked a little bit of hospitality before then, and I have always wanted to start my own business. It's something that I sort of dreamt of doing my whole life. And I suddenly realized after 4 years on super-yachts that if I didn't quit, then I was going to stay on super-yachts for my life. And I didn't want that. So I just went cold turkey on super-yachts and handed my notice in and came home with no idea what I was going to set up. And then went through a series of interesting experiments, maybe we could call them, but ideas that I ran at and didn't work out. And then I remember distinctively being so hungover one morning and going into a supermarket and going to that chilled section, which is what I sort of always tend to do. And there was Lucozade Sport, there was Coca-Cola, there was Innocent Smoothie. There were these sort of go-to things that I've been just picking up my whole life. And I just thought, why is there not one simple, all-in-one solution, one product that brings together all of the elements that you want when you are hungover, to detoxify you, to re-energize you, to rehydrate you, to replenish you, but done in a much more natural and whole ingredient way. Lucozade Sport, great product, sure, but I used to always think it's quite one-dimensional. It just hydrates you. Or Coca-Cola is full of sugar and isn't necessarily what your body is actually crying out for. Innocent Smoothie, the one where you think you're replenishing yourself, actually is just full of sugar again. I was just so frustrated that there wasn't something designed for recovery. So a deep frustration, a deep pain point that this thing didn't exist. And amongst all these other ridiculous businesses that I was trying to set up that just weren't really suited to me. And, that very simplistic thing of hangovers, which actually is something that I experience a lot because I love a drink, was the thing closest to me that I had the biggest passion for, actually became the one that seems to be going the best. So I think there's something quite interesting in there. So that is how Reclaim was born.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for taking us through that story.
Good.
Maybe jumping in a little bit more to that problem that your customers face that Reclaim is really solving for. So let's paint the scene a little bit for the people that are listening. So imagine it's 7 a.m. You've just had a pretty wild night. You have a very big work day ahead of you and you are absolutely not feeling your best. What are most people right now reaching for, and what are the solutions that they're landing on? It'd be great to discuss what they are and why they're failing.
I think that there are some fantastic products out there in the sort of preparation for a hangover, and I'm loving watching them grow. It's three great products, which I love to give other startups a shout out. So Nashi Pear Juice, Prepare, and Soul Tonic are the three sort of leading the charge with the pre-drinking, and all three of them doing amazing things. But my issue, which I think a lot of other people also might resonate with, is that we don't always anticipate being hungover. We don't always plan for it, and we don't always know it's going to happen. And certainly for me, I'm quite an impromptu kind of guy. I go for a drink, and then that sort of turned into like 11, and then suddenly you're waking up and you're in that situation. So that's the sort of first reasoning, is that it's often the times that you don't plan that you then find yourself in a challenging situation. And that can also be within a work capacity. So,
Yes.
I find this really sort of strange thing that, especially in sort of like corporate world, the more senior you are, the more you are kind of expected to drink, whether that's through client lunches, client dinners, after work drinks. But yeah, because you're so senior, that level of responsibility and expectation to perform the next day is sort of like greater. It's sort of this weird self-perpetuating cycle that you have to be drinking quite a lot, but then be feeling good the next day. And hangovers are a really taboo subject. You're not allowed to talk about being hungover. There's just something about it. Employees frown upon it. But the feedback that I've had has been almost like this really refreshing thing. People have said, I am so pleased that you're being so open about it because we're always hungover. It's this thing that we across the board all struggle with, yet no one's talking about it. I mean, Korea, for example, they have thousands and thousands of hangover recovery products. Their market is booming because they know and accept their professionals drink a lot. But in England, you've got this huge drinking culture and arguably more than Korea, yet we don't have that hangover recovery. So it just doesn't make sense to me why that hasn't started yet. As I mentioned at the start, there's loads of different products that do different things. Each of them being quite expensive, not always having stock of them or going to one shop to get a Lucozade and then having to go to Holland and Barrett to get maybe like a more health focused product. I think the word scattered is something that kept coming to me through the process. It's a very scattered recovery process
Mm.
to acquire all of the different elements to what you need. And on my talent, I've got detoxifying, energizing, replenishing, and hydrating. And those four areas I've put into one can so that it is a pick up and go in a really nice 150 ml can. So you can pick it up on the way from the tube, on the way to the office, drink it before you get in. And so, yeah, that's sort of the pain point I'm trying to provide a solution for.
You just mentioned different jobs and people being expected to drink as part of their work. Have you seen any particular industries that are particularly prone to this, or where young people, maybe older people, are having those impromptu drinks nights and really having to do their top-notch work the following day?
Yeah, I think that it is quite an anomaly, the hangover, because it doesn't necessarily stick to just one type of person. I think that's quite an exciting and interesting space because, just to think of some examples, you could go to a funeral and there'd be a wait and there'd be a little bit of wine and then you accidentally drink too much wine. And I don't know, you then the next morning you've got to drive back to where you've come from, where you live, which is I don't know, 100-mile drive or something, stupid example. But it's so wide ranging as a problem, that feeling of not being 100%. And people might come onto it, but the ingredients that I put in this drink are so wide ranging because I so desperately want it to be able to help every situation. It's got beautiful ingredients in it to really benefit the body, rejuvenate you. That it's sort of it is quite a wide ranging product. So that's my first part of the answer. But if I was then to give you a more definitive answer, I would say probably uh, professionals. It is a premium product. It's not cheap. So disposable income is a factor there. So I think that it's painting a certain picture that it's people that like to spend a bit of money on their well-being, ensuring they're putting good quality ingredients, good doses into them, and sort of party hard, recover harder type approach. So I'm trying not to alienate anyone or cut anyone out because I honestly I would like this to be the next Red Bull or the next ginger shot, and it's so generalized who can consume them that I sort of want it to be for everyone really.
Makes a lot of sense. And I think what you were saying earlier about the client management side of things is something that is so common across lots of different industries, whether you're in banking, insurance, a creative role. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, drinking is such a large part of that client services role. And it does lead to a lot of impromptu nights. You've got a client meeting at 5 p.m. and then it's, oh, should we go to the pub afterwards? Because it's basically the end of the day. Or maybe it is that long
Mm.
client lunch that turns into a long client afternoon or evening.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you have to rally the next day because you've got a big presentation or a big thing that you've got to get done. And I think what's really beautiful about Reclaim compared to the other options that we've talked about is that the ingredients within Reclaim actually help versus a lot of the other solutions that people might go to almost mask the symptoms of that hangover. It'd be great to talk a little bit more about the functional ingredients in the drink and specifically how they help people when they are feeling a bit dusty.
Dusty is a great word, isn't it? It gets around all of the parameters that we're not going
Yeah,
to.
exactly.
So, um, when I had the idea, obviously I'm not a nutritionist. I don't have any formal education. I've always loved supplements. I've always been very interested, possibly because I'm very impatient. I like the idea that you've got a problem, swallow a pill, problem solved. I quite like that approach. I like the fact that there are supplements and natural supplements and adaptogens, these sort of natural products, roots. Nature has so much to offer. And so I've always been very interested in that. So I actually bought a book, A to Z, of every single supplement ever sort of recorded in the world. Massive books, about the only time I've ever read a book in my life. And I went through it with a highlighter and I highlighted every single product that had claims about, recovery and all that kind of stuff. And then I went through the process of hiring a nutritionist, went to like a nutritionist recruitment firm who helped me find a nutritionist, like one of the top nutritionists, which was really great. However, because she was so good, when I then gave her my couple of weeks worth of research that I'd done, she literally put it in the bin and said, there is so much crap out there that probably 95 or 99.9% of the things you've highlighted just won't do anything. I was like, bloody hell, just spent 3 weeks practicing my reading. So the first protocol was my nutritionist, and she curated an ingredient list of products that she felt would genuinely do something. And part of the brief was that I didn't want it to be, another gimmick, because there are a lot of gimmicks out there. On that point, I just want to highlight to everybody listening, I don't for a second claim that this is a hangover cure. This is not a hangover cure. There is no product in the world, maybe apart from Sulfidine Plus, that cures a hangover. You drank poison at the end of the day, and there's nothing you can do to fix it. Reclaim is a recovery drink, and it's about doing everything that you can as an individual to reclaim your day. And that's quite literally why it's called Reclaim, because you are trying to take that back through speeding up that recovery process. And so that was the brief to the nutritionist. What does your body truly need when you are depleted, quite literally, emotionally and physically?
Yes.
And so she made this amazing list. So we started off with functional mushrooms because I was really intrigued with them. And something about the functional mushrooms, or just functional drinks as a whole, it's this huge emerging space. And I would implore everybody, because it's something I'm really passionate about, to start caring more about doses, because a lot of products are putting these ingredients into their drink, writing the name of the ingredients on the front, but they're not listing anywhere what dose is in. And you can find, if you look into it, the doses can be negligible, but then they are charging premium prices, and the functionality isn't really there. So that was another thing that was really important to me, is complete transparency on doses. So my doses, every single ingredient, the dose for each of them is printed on the can, each functional ingredient, all the vitamins, all the minerals, all the adaptogens, all the nootropics, it's all on the can. And so
Amazing.
we have a really, really high dose of functional mushrooms. I'm yet to find a drink. I'm not saying it's not out there, but I'm yet to find a drink that has a higher dose of functional mushrooms than Reclaim. And we have 1,500 milligrams of lion's mane, and on top of that, 1,500 milligrams of cordyceps. So 3,000 milligrams of functional mushrooms in each can, which is a big old hit, and is the fruiting body of the lion's mane, which is the really sort of potent part of it, rather than the stem and the roots. It's the good bit.
For anyone that doesn't know much about functional mushrooms, what do lion's mane and cordyceps do? How do they help with that recovery?
Yeah, sure. So there's this thing called the ASA, I think it's Advertising Standards, and they are all mixed in with like the claims and what you can and can't say about products. So functional mushrooms, legally, there are no approved claims for those ingredients yet. So legally, I can't make any claims about them, but who cares about the law? I'm going to tell you what they do for you, but it's just interesting. to sort of paint a picture of the drinks market, the functional recovery market, because every single drink does make claims, but it's just quite interesting to know that it's breaking the law, which I think is quite mad.
Yeah.
Lion's mane is good for the brain, the cognition, and it's a lot of studies say that it helps regenerate the brain and the connections within the brain, and so the cognitive element of that. So brain fog, helping you lift you out of brain fog. Lion's mane is meant to be really, really good for. And cordyceps is more of an energizer. You know, it's sort of like clean energy, natural energy. And those two things, sort of focus, cognition, and energy are probably, I would say, for me, what I struggle with the most when I'm hungover: brain fog and just not wanting to do anything. And also my brain power. When I'm hungover, I can't do anything. So that's functional mushrooms. We then also have ginseng and L-theanine. So ginseng again is a great sort of natural energy. It's not a stimulant, and it's there's no caffeine in Reclaim, because I want you to drink it in the morning alongside your coffee. I think that coffee is a sort of religious moment for most people in their day. Also, when you're hungover, anxiety is a big element. Certainly, if I've had a really big night, I feel a bit anxious, and so I try and limit my caffeine intake when I'm hungover. So I wanted to not have any caffeine in it for that reason. But then also, if someone has had a coffee and they're hungover, they certainly don't want another product with caffeine in it. So I haven't put any caffeine in it. But ginseng is a natural energizer again, so to help you to come out of that brain fog. And then L-theanine is derived from green tea, and it's like this sort of relaxing element of green tea. So helps you, and again, I'm not a nutritionist, so this is just what I picked up from my nutritionist, who was telling me all about it. It helps with the way the brain waves are put out. It's just a calming effect, and actually pairs with caffeine really nicely. So obviously, when you do have your coffee, L-theanine balances out that high and just makes it not too sharp, which is a really interesting ingredient.
I imagine that helps with the coffee crash that also comes after you've had a few coffees.
Yeah, I mean, coffee is such a strong stimulant. I can't claim that Reclaim will prevent a caffeine crash, because I don't think that's possible. But I definitely feel pretty chill. So there is 400 milligrams of ginseng, and there's 200 milligrams of L-theanine in each can. And then we've got all 8 B vitamins. So a lot of drinks you'll see have vitamin B6 and B12, or B1 and B2, but we have all 8, and all 8 of them are at 100% of your recommended intake. That doesn't mean you're going to overdose it and take more. It just means that's what is good for you to consume in a day. It's like vegetables. You're not going to die if you eat 7 heads of broccoli. It's just, you only need 5 a day.
But that means that people don't need to supplement outside of Reclaim. They're getting all of the supplements that they need from a B vitamin perspective.
I wouldn't want to make that claim that you don't need to supplement outside of Reclaim, but from a B vitamin perspective, you are getting what you need from a can of Reclaim. And then we've got vitamin C in there from, I can't say what type of cherry, so I can never pronounce it. It's a quite a popular way of getting your vitamin C, not from a sort of synthetic source, because a lot of the vitamin C tablets, and especially the effervescent tablets, it's very synthetic. So we've got it from that lovely cherry. There is also a huge detoxifying element to the drink. So the 3 detoxifiers we've got now are NAC, which is a really powerful antioxidant. But we've got choline, which again helps the liver detox toxins, which, when you're drinking alcohol, is super important to try and flush that out as soon as possible, because it's that lingering toxification that's in your body that causes so much trouble. And then milk thistle, which I'm sure everyone knows. And then we have got zinc, magnesium, potassium, and iodine all added in, which are your electrolytes. And then iodine is really good for the thyroid, and has also had some claims about it with your cognition again. So it's going to work for the brain fog. And it's based on a ginger shot. The concept of the drink is based on a ginger shot. But my issue with ginger shots is that most of the time, if you look in a shop and turn it around and look at the ingredients, it's about 80% apple juice. Apple juice is a really cheap product, and that's why people use it, because it helps with profit margins, and it's just simple to use. But there's very little nutrition in it, often from concentrate. So it's just not really that good for you, and makes up 80% of the drink. So I've switched out apple juice. I'm using organic coconut water, because coconut water just screams hydration. It screams replenishment. There's natural electrolytes on top of the ones that I put in the coconut water, and there's naturally occurring minerals in there as well, which is really great. And it just creates a bit more of a luxury premium product because it just feels nicer to be consuming that with some Peruvian ginger in there as well, which is quite fiery.
It's great to hear about all of these fantastic ingredients. Obviously, you've got the functional mushrooms in there, all these vitamins, minerals, you've got your coconut water, the ginseng. Could you talk me through a bit of the flavor profile of the drink so people can get an
Yeah.
understanding of what to expect when they crack open the can?
Yeah, wow. I mean, the flavor element was crazy. It took about 4 months to make the drink. So after I'd been to the nutritionist, I then found an amazing company called SH Foodie. If anyone's looking to build their own drink, highly, highly, highly recommend it. Most amazing girl called Jess was in charge of my drink, and I've never met such talented. I think I was a food scientist, just so incredible. And my brief was incredibly challenging because it's very unusual to have so many ingredients at such high doses. And actually, Jess said, I've never seen a drink with this many ingredients before. So I've never seen it. I've never made it. It's nigh on impossible because I'd also said that it's got to taste nice. And I'd also said, I don't want any added sugar, which is, kind of impossible. So to begin with, it was pretty disgusting because mushrooms taste like dirt. If you'd go into a wood and lick the floor, it's pretty much what lion's mane and cordyceps taste like mixed together. So trying to create this product that tastes nice with no added sugar, with that flavor in there, and then all of the other fortification is so difficult. But Jess is a genius, and we've got some pear juice in there, some English pear juice,
Fantastic.
which sweetens it up a little bit naturally, but
Mm.
still low sugar per can. And then that ginger, it's a quite a complex flavor. And actually, I've just been at a trade fair the past 2 days, and I actually felt quite self-conscious about the flavor because um uh you know it's very natural. It's a very replenishing natural flavor. I was feeling really self-conscious when people were trying it because I was suddenly in front of all these incredible buyers from all the main supermarkets and these incredible distribution places and lots of independent stores, and they were all trying it. And I started off by sort of saying, it's a bit of a medicinal flavor. It's very natural, and everyone was saying it's absolutely delicious. And one
Mm.
guy stopped me. He said, "You've got to stop saying that because people are saying they like it, and if you are saying to every single person before they try it, oh, you might not like it, you might not like it," he said, "you're going to start to like really devalue your product." So I thought it was a really interesting piece of feedback. So I stopped saying that, and I just said, low in sugar, quite a natural flavor. And I was blown away over the past 2 days. I had one person out of probably 600 to 700 people say they didn't like it, which I like. I couldn't really believe it. So I'm pretty stoked about that.
It's interesting you touched on there the difference between that flavor profile and that medicinal piece. And I think with a lot of functional beverages, it's one thing to balance. There's that thought process that I think we quite unconsciously have that if something's doing me good, it doesn't need to taste amazing. But what it sounds like you've done with Reclaim, especially from that feedback at the trade show, is that you've really managed to balance it's doing me good and it tastes good, which is really, really impressive. So congratulations on that. And I think it's really commendable that you guys have landed there. So it sounds like the predominant flavor is ginger, really. And if people might be familiar with ginger shots, is the drink fizzy? Is it flat? What do people expect?
So it is flat, and the reason that it's flat is because I see fizzy drinks as being like a soda, and I don't see sodas screaming health.
Mhm.
So I think that a lot of the lifestyle drinks, functional drinks, health drinks, if you were to open them in the 250 ml cans and pour them out across the board, pretty much every drink is translucent. You can see through it, and I just don't personally feel that healthy, nutritious when I'm drinking them, or that I'm getting much replenishment. Replenishment's a big word. I keep saying replenishment because it's such a big part of Reclaim, that apologizing to the body, putting goodness back in. So I really didn't want to be one of those water-based, translucent, fizzy drinks. And I had a lot of stick for that, actually. My wife and my mum, two main women in my life, apart from my Labrador dog, she's probably number one, is, they kept saying, make it fizzy, it'd be so much more delicious. I always reach for Coca-Cola in the morning. I was like, I'm not trying to replace Coca-Cola. That's not my positioning. I am that health drink that doesn't currently exist. And there's a hotel I used to go to quite a lot when I was younger, and they used to have in their mini bar freshly pressed juices, and always the first thing I reached for was one of their ginger presses, and that was a big part of thinking as well, to be flat.
So it sounds like obviously there's a lot of people, as you just mentioned, that would reach for that Diet Coke, and there are a lot of people that are building in that kind of fizzy space. But it's exciting to hear that you're building in what feels like a better alternative almost to the green juices that people might grab from the supermarket, where they can physically see the ingredients in it. They know that there's goodness in there. Obviously, we now know that they're very full of apple juice, and you guys are building a much more fortified drink with much better ingredients in there. So it's great to hear that when people are thinking about how does Reclaim fit into my current routine, it's potentially more of a replacement for those enriched juice drinks that people might be going to grab instead of that Diet Coke, because it doesn't give you the same fizz.
And yeah, those green juices, sure, they're like the natural ones, not the ones that are in the plastic cartons that are
Mm.
sat there for years because they're just full of sugar. Natural sugar, sure, but just sort of sugar. But it's just because they're so one-dimensional, and that's
Yes.
they don't have the functional mushrooms, they don't have the adaptogens, they don't have the nootropics, they don't have the electrolytes. They're great products, but they only offer one function. And I think that's the main thing for me. I just wanted a grab and go, one product that brings everything together that has high doses of good quality natural ingredients. And it's sort of as simple as that. And I kept saying this at the trade show, like there's nothing really special about this business. It's super transparent. It's just a guy that likes a good time, that was just annoyed that a product didn't exist. And I've just tried to make it. I'm not trying to put the wool over anyone's eyes. I basically made it for myself, to be honest.
And I guess when we look forward for the next few months, what do you see happening with Reclaim and then maybe the next 6 months?
So in the next 6 months, really exciting. I've got another SKU. I built
Exciting.
it at the same time as building this ginger one, but I didn't have enough money to manufacture it. And so I hope that in the next 6 months, as you say, I would have sold enough Reclaim, and I would just, I'm not going to take any of that money. I'm going to put it straight back into the business to save up to do this other SKU. And it's the same packaging, but just in green. And
Ooh,
rather than being a coconut, ginger, and lemon, it's going to be coconut, cucumber, and yuzu, which is really exciting
that sounds super
because
refreshing.
exactly, it is so refreshing, which is awesome. And I love this one, and Sophie, my wife, loves the cucumber one. This is a bit more of a sort of like wake up, like woo, let's go. Whereas the green cucumber and yuzu one is like really refreshing, but a little bit like, and I really want to get that out because obviously people either love the ginger one or they love the sweet one. So that's something I'm really excited about. But money dependence, need to sell if you can. And over the past 2 days, as I said, at this trade fair, which honestly amazing, I can't believe how good it was. I spoke to some amazing wholesalers that were really interested in the product. I spoke to some retailers that were really interested in the product. I spoke to some hotels that were really interested in the product. So I'm beyond excited. A hell of a lot of emails to send, which I'm not excited
Yeah.
about. But I'm really, really hoping, and I'm not even hoping, I'm confident from the conversations that I had that within the next month, maybe 2 months, then you're going to start to see it definitely around London and then maybe a little bit further afield as well, which is, I can't even tell you how excited I am about that. So it's sort of the
Super exciting.
first bit of real traction from external people. So yeah, I'm really happy.
That's super exciting. I mean, I can't wait for the first time that I bump into Reclaim in the world. That's always a really exciting experience when I speak to a startup on the podcast and then I see them out in the world, know that everyone's succeeding. So that's super exciting. And I guess everyone listening, keep an eye out for Reclaim in those hotels that you might be staying at. So to finish things up, Todd, we like to end the podcast by asking about other startups that you might admire at the moment that you think that we should have on the show, because we believe that a rising tide lifts all ships. So what is
Absolutely.
one startup that you're familiar with, you've come across, maybe you've met, that you really admire and that you think we should feature next on the show?
So I've seen this amazing product recently. It's still in the shop space called Gut Buds, and it's aimed towards kids with prebiotics and probiotics in it, but in like a sort of really fresh smoothie format.
Oh,
And I
wow.
think that it's really key because, as you know, obviously gut health is so important. And here I am making a functional drink for adults who drink too much alcohol, which obviously I love, but there's not so much functionality being aimed towards kids at the moment.
Mm.
And as you can probably tell, I'm really passionate about how functional drinks can help you. And so I think it's really nice that they are doing something for children and are able to push that forward. So yeah, gut buds, really cool.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I'll make sure to get the details off you and I'll reach out to them so we can get them on the show. Todd, thank you
Nice.
so much for coming on and for talking with everyone
Thank
today
you.
about Reclaim and what you're building. For people that want to find out a bit more, where can they find you on social media and what's your website?
Mega. So if you've got 5 minutes to spare, please check out my Instagram. It's Reclaim Drink. And I've documented the process I remember filming the first video as I was going over my notes from my interviews. And I said, hello, everyone. And I was like, wait, only my wife follows me. So hopefully I'll have a few more followers. Anyway, so would love it if you could follow me, have a little peruse over my videos. And yeah, if anyone is looking to start a business, just go for it. I've got no idea what I'm doing. I've got 20,000 cans and about to go into some supermarkets. So go for it.
Amazing. Well, Todd, it's been such a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with all of us and tell us more about Reclaim. We will wish you the best of luck, and I'll make sure that everything is linked in the show notes so that everyone can follow along and hopefully shop from you.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved it.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can support Todd and what he's building by checking out the links in the show notes, following them on social media, and sharing this episode with a friend that you think might find it interesting. For any UK listeners, you can also get 20% off of your first order of Reclaim when you use the code EARLY20 in the checkout on their website. And if you're enjoying what we're bringing you here at Discover Startups, I'd love if you could take a second to subscribe to our channel or sign up to our newsletter. That way, you'll always be the first to know when a new episode drops. That's all for now, but I'll be back soon with another founder, another story, and another startup for you to discover. I hope you have a great day.